What if every success you desire, every failure you fear, and every limit you accept already exists inside your mind, not in the world around you? What if the simple act of changing a single thought today could completely rewrite the story of your life tomorrow? The reason this matters is because your thoughts are not innocent. They are creative forces silently shaping your habits, your decisions, and ultimately your destiny. Hello, this is Earl Nightingale on this topic, As the Man Thinketh. Few ideas in all of human history have carried more power, more truth, and more influence over the destiny of a person than this one simple principle that a man's life is shaped, not by circumstances, not by chance, and not by luck, but by the nature of his dominant thoughts. The world you see around you today is not a coincidence. It is the mirror image of the thinking you have carried within your mind for years. Every condition, every relationship, every level of success or failure can be traced back to a single source, the way you consistently think. When you understand this, and more importantly, when you apply it, you step into a position of control over your own life. You are no longer a victim of the world. You become its architect. Most people go through life believing that their circumstances are the architects of their destiny. They believe the world shapes them. That opportunity is something given or withheld by forces beyond their control. But in reality, the true architect of every life is thought. Long before any success is visible in the outer world, it has already been constructed in the quiet, invisible workshop of the mind. Every invention, every business, every great achievement, every personal downfall began first as an idea, a belief, a mental picture repeatedly held. The life a person is living today is simply the finished product of the thoughts they have been entertaining, often without realizing it, for years. A thought may seem small and harmless, but it is not. Repeated often enough, it becomes a belief. A belief embraced long enough becomes a habit. And a habit, acted upon day after day, becomes a way of life. This is how destiny is built silently, gradually, and with perfect accuracy. No two lives are exactly the same because no two minds carry the exact same pattern of dominant thought. The successful individual is not separated from the rest by luck or favoritism, but by a disciplined mind that consistently chooses constructive, purposeful thinking over fear, doubt, and confusion. If a person constantly thinks in terms of limitation, scarcity, and failure, then no matter how hard they work or how much help they receive, they will continue to produce limited results. Their actions may change temporarily, but their thinking has planted a ceiling that their life cannot rise above. On the other hand, when an individual begins to think in terms of growth, possibility, order, and self-control, their world gradually realigns itself to match those thoughts. New decisions are made, new opportunities are recognized, new courage appears. The same environment exists, but a different destiny begins to unfold. This is not a mysterious or complicated process. It is a law as reliable as the law of gravity. Just as a seed buried in the earth must produce according to its kind, a thought buried in the mind must produce after its own nature. Angry thoughts give birth to conflict. Fearful thoughts give birth to weakness. Confident thoughts give birth to strength. Noble thoughts give birth to a noble life. There is no escape from this law, but there is great freedom within it. The moment a person realizes that thought is the cause of conditions, they gain the power to change those conditions by changing the cause. No one is imprisoned by their past thinking unless they continue to think it in the present. At any moment, a new pattern can begin. A new mental blueprint can be drawn. The mind can be trained, directed, and refined. With steady awareness and patient discipline, a person can remove destructive thoughts and replace them with constructive ones, just as a gardener removes weeds and plants seeds for a better harvest. Over time, the outer world must change because the inner world has changed. When a person truly understands that thought is the real architect of destiny, life is no longer a gamble. It becomes a design, it becomes intentional, and every day becomes an opportunity to build something greater from within. The mind can be compared to a living garden, rich with potential and constantly responding to the care it is given. Every thought you think is a seed you drop into its soil. Some of these seeds are chosen deliberately, planted with intention and hope. Others fall there without awareness, carried in by conversation, media, past experiences, and passing emotions. Yet no matter how they arrive, each seed has one certainty: it will grow. The quality of your life, therefore, is not determined by chance, but by the kinds of thoughts you allow to take root and the level of attention you give to your inner world. When a garden is neglected, weeds appear naturally. No one has to plant them or encourage them. They grow simply because the soil is left unguarded. In the same way, when the mind is left undisciplined, negative thinking arises automatically. Doubt, fear, resentment, laziness, and self-criticism spread quickly, entangling the healthier ideas that once had space to grow. People often wonder why they feel stuck, unmotivated, or unhappy, but rarely do they look at the state of their mental garden. They focus on external conditions, not realizing that the real disorder is growing silently within. A thriving garden does not happen by accident. It requires awareness, patience, and consistent effort. Weeds must be pulled out as soon as they appear. Healthy seeds must be selected carefully and planted with intention. The soil must be nourished and protected from harmful influences. In the same way, the mind must be trained to recognize unproductive thoughts and remove them before they become habits. This work is not glamorous. It is often invisible to others, but it is the hidden labor that determines the visible results in every area of life. Positive, constructive thoughts are like seeds of strength, confidence, clarity, and purpose. When they are repeated and nurtured daily, they begin to shape beliefs. Those beliefs begin to influence decisions. Those decisions then shape behavior, and behavior, repeated over time, becomes a new reality. This is why two people can live in the same environment, face the same challenges, and yet produce completely different outcomes. One has cultivated a garden of growth. The other has allowed weeds to take control. Discipline is the gardener. Without it, even the best intentions fail. You may plant a few good ideas, but if you do not guard them, the stronger, older weeds of doubt and fear will overtake them. Discipline in thinking means observing your own mind without excuse. It means questioning harmful patterns. It means replacing a negative thought the moment it appears, not tomorrow, not next week, but now. Over time, this consistent practice builds a powerful inner landscape where success is natural, not forced. The beautiful truth is that anyone can transform their mental garden. It does not matter how long it has been neglected. The moment awareness and responsibility begin, change begins. You do not have to fight the entire garden in one day. One weed removed today, one strong seed planted today is progress. And as days turn into weeks and weeks into months, the garden transforms. What was once wild and chaotic becomes ordered, purposeful, and full of life. Your mind is always producing a harvest. The only question is, what kind of harvest will you choose to grow? Circumstances are often blamed for the kind of life a person lives. When things go well, people credit luck, timing, or external advantages. When things go wrong, they point to the economy, their background, other people, or simple misfortune. But circumstances are not creators, they are revealers. They do not form character, they expose it. They act like a mirror, reflecting back the inner state that already exists within a person's mind and heart. Two people can walk through the same storm and experience it completely differently. One sees only hardship and becomes discouraged, angry, and defeated. The other sees a challenge and grows stronger, wiser, and more determined. The storm did not change who they were. It simply uncovered the truth of their inner world. Pressure does not produce weakness or strength. It brings what is already there to the surface. This is why the same opportunity lifts one person while it ruins another. The difference is never in the situation itself, but in the person who faces it. Character is built long before any circumstance demands it. It is shaped by hidden thoughts, private habits, quiet decisions, and unseen attitudes repeated day after day. When life is calm, character is forming silently in the background. And when the tests arrive, as they always do, that hidden character is revealed. The dishonest mind is uncovered when temptation appears. The disciplined mind is revealed when discipline is required. The fearful mind is exposed when courage is demanded. Circumstances simply pull back the curtain. Many people wish for better conditions before they choose to become better themselves. They say, when life improves, I will improve. When things calm down, I will focus. When I get an opportunity, I will change. But life does not work in that order. Improvement in life follows improvement in thinking. Strength in circumstances follows strength in character. By the time better conditions appear, the person must already be prepared to meet them. Otherwise, they will either miss them or misuse them. When a person blames circumstances, they give their power away. They become a victim of the world instead of a creator within it. But when they understand that circumstances are only a reflection, everything changes. No longer do they waste energy fighting the outside. Instead, they go to the source. They work on discipline instead of complaining about chaos. They strengthen their mindset instead of cursing difficulty. They refine their character instead of resenting their environment. This realization is both uncomfortable and freeing. It is uncomfortable because it removes excuses. It forces a person to look honestly at themselves and accept responsibility for who they have become. But it is freeing because it returns control to where it belongs, within. If circumstances created character, then a person would always be trapped. But because character is self-created, it can be self-transformed. The world will continue to present challenges, injustices, and uncertainties. That will never change. But what can change, and what ultimately matters most, is the person who meets those conditions. Circumstances are only the test. Character is the answer. And by shaping character through intentional thought and disciplined action, a person ensures that no matter what the world presents, it will reveal strength, not weakness, purpose, not confusion, and control, not chaos. Suffering is one of the most misunderstood experiences in life. Many believe it comes from the outside, from misfortune, from other people, or from circumstances beyond control. But in truth, suffering is almost always the product of thought gone astray. It begins in the mind long before it manifests in the world. Negative thinking, wrong beliefs, and unguarded emotions plant the seeds of pain, which eventually grow into experiences that feel overwhelming or unfair. Understanding this principle is not a call for blame, but an invitation to responsibility, insight, and transformation. When a person repeatedly entertains fear, resentment, jealousy, or self-pity, they are unconsciously crafting the very situations that lead to suffering. Life simply delivers the consequences of that inner state. Anger and bitterness may sour relationships. Doubt may prevent opportunities from being recognized. Laziness may lead to financial or personal hardship. These are not punishments from the universe, but natural results of misdirected thought. In other words, suffering is not random. It is a reflection of inner disharmony, a signal that the mind has been working against itself rather than with itself. Yet suffering is not only a warning, it is also a teacher. It highlights where thinking must be corrected, where habits must be changed, and where greater awareness is needed. No person grows stronger or wiser without facing difficulty. Challenges and setbacks force reflection and adaptation. When pain appears, it offers a choice: to continue along the same path, compounding error with error, or to adjust one's thinking and habits in pursuit of understanding and improvement. A suffering becomes transformative when approached with this mindset. Many people resist acknowledging the mind's role in suffering because it is uncomfortable to accept responsibility. It is easier to blame external circumstances, other people, or sheer bad luck. But as long as responsibility is placed outside the self, the same patterns repeat endlessly. By recognizing that suffering arises from thought, a person gains the power to interrupt the cycle. They can examine the beliefs that create stress and dissatisfaction, replace destructive thoughts with constructive ones, and gradually rebuild life from a foundation of clarity and purpose. This does not mean suffering will vanish immediately. Changing thought patterns is a process that requires patience, vigilance, and persistence. Negative habits may linger, and setbacks will continue to test the mind. But over time, the intensity and frequency of suffering decline as the inner life becomes more disciplined and aligned. The mind begins to attract experiences that reflect strength, resilience, and wisdom rather than fear, doubt, and regret. Ultimately, suffering is a mirror of the mind, a message from within urging correction and growth. It is both a consequence and an opportunity. Those who learn to interpret its lessons, rather than fight or ignore it, gain insight, control, and freedom. Pain is no longer a random enemy, but a guide, signaling where change is needed and pointing toward the higher possibilities that lie just beyond the limitations of current thinking. The key lies in recognizing that the mind shapes reality, and suffering is simply one of the most visible signs of thought in need of refinement. Self-mastery is the cornerstone of a life that achieves genuine success. Many people spend their lives seeking external solutions, better opportunities, wealth, recognition, or favorable circumstances, while neglecting the one factor that determines the outcome of all their efforts: mastery over their own mind. Without this control, no amount of opportunity or luck can produce lasting achievement. True power is not granted by position, wealth, or circumstance. It is cultivated from within through disciplined thought, deliberate action, and consistent self-awareness. At the heart of self-mastery is the ability to observe and direct one's thoughts. The untrained mind drifts from fear to doubt, from distraction to impulsive reaction. Such a mind reacts to circumstances rather than shaping them, and life unfolds chaotically as a result. The disciplined mind, on the other hand, chooses thoughts intentionally, cultivates constructive beliefs, and maintains focus on meaningful goals. Every decision, habit, and action flows from this inner governance, producing results that are deliberate rather than accidental. Mastery over oneself is therefore mastery over life itself. Self-mastery is also about emotional regulation. Those who cannot control their own emotions are at the mercy of external events and the behavior of others. Anger, jealousy, impatience, and fear, when allowed to dominate, cloud judgment, distort perception, and create unnecessary suffering. By developing the ability to observe emotions without being ruled by them, a person gains freedom and clarity. Emotional discipline allows for rational, intentional responses, even in the face of difficulty, and ensures that energy is directed toward progress rather than wasted on reaction. Another critical aspect of self-mastery is persistence in the pursuit of long-term goals. Impulse and short-term desire often override reason and planning, leading to inconsistent effort and unfulfilled potential. A person who has mastered themselves can delay gratification, maintain focus, and follow a steady course even when the path is challenging or progress seems slow. Success is rarely sudden. It is the result of consistent, intelligent effort over time, guided by a mind that refuses to be swayed by temporary distraction or discouragement. Self-mastery also involves recognizing and reshaping habits. Habits are the crystallized results of repeated thought and action. They determine how a person reacts under pressure, approaches challenges, and interacts with the world. Those who have not mastered themselves are often slaves to destructive habits, unaware of how these patterns limit achievement. Through self-awareness and discipline, habits can be intentionally formed or replaced, ensuring that behavior consistently aligns with goals and values. Ultimately, self-mastery is the foundation upon which all success is built. External circumstances will never be entirely within control, and relying on them as a source of security is futile. Only by developing control over thought, emotion, and action can a person achieve consistency, resilience, and true accomplishment. A life guided by self-mastery is a life of purpose, direction, and freedom, where external events are navigated with confidence, and challenges are met with skill rather than panic. It is the inner command of the mind that determines the trajectory of every life. Peace is often sought in external circumstances, quiet surroundings, comfortable living, financial stability, or the absence of conflict. Yet true peace is not a gift of the outside world. It cannot be bought, demanded, or arranged by circumstance. Lasting calm and contentment originate within the mind itself. No matter how favorable conditions may appear, a restless or undisciplined mind will always find reasons to be disturbed, anxious, or dissatisfied. Understanding that peace is an inside job is the first step toward achieving it. The mind is constantly processing experiences, interpreting events, and generating responses. When dominated by worry, fear, anger, or regret, it becomes a source of tension and turbulence. The world around may seem serene, yet internal chaos will prevent a person from feeling calm. Conversely, a mind trained to cultivate clarity, acceptance, and balance maintains a sense of equilibrium even amid challenging or unpredictable circumstances. Inner peace does not depend on eliminating difficulties. It depends on mastering the response to them. Developing peace within begins with self-awareness. It requires observing thoughts and emotions without immediately reacting or judging them. By recognizing patterns of negative thinking or habitual overreaction, a person gains the ability to interrupt cycles that create internal unrest. Calm does not emerge from suppression or denial of feelings. It arises from understanding, acceptance, and intentional redirection of thought toward constructive and harmonious perspectives. This is the practice that allows the mind to remain steady even when the external environment is unstable. Another essential element of inner peace is detachment from what cannot be controlled. Much of human anxiety and agitation stems from attempts to force the world to conform to personal expectations. Whether other people's behavior, economic shifts, and countless other factors lie beyond control. Peace emerges when a person focuses energy on what is within influence, their thoughts, choices, and actions, while letting go of unnecessary attachment to outcomes. This is not indifference, but intelligent focus, a recognition that control over oneself is the only true source of stability. Consistency in cultivating positive habits of thought is equally important. Gratitude, reflection, mindfulness, and self-discipline strengthen the mind's ability to maintain calm under pressure. Just as a physical body becomes stronger through exercise, the mind develops resilience through regular practice. Negative impulses, reactive tendencies, and fear-based thinking lose their power as deliberate. Constructive thoughts become habitual. Over time, peace becomes a natural state rather than a fleeting experience. Ultimately, inner peace is freedom, the freedom to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively, to navigate challenges with composure, and to maintain clarity of purpose regardless of external conditions. Life will inevitably present trials, conflicts, and uncertainties, but the person who has cultivated internal harmony will meet them with steadiness and confidence. Peace is not an endpoint achieved once and for all. It is a continuous practice, a skill of the mind, and a conscious choice that defines the quality of every experience. It is within the mind, not the world, that lasting calm resides. Noble thoughts are the foundation of a noble life. Every act of integrity, every moment of courage, and every achievement of significance begins in the mind. When thoughts are elevated, centered on truth, compassion, purpose, and justice, they shape not only the individual but also the world around them. The character, actions, and circumstances of a person are inseparable from the quality of the thoughts they consistently entertain. A life of greatness is first imagined, nurtured, and disciplined in the mind before it manifests in reality. The mind is a powerful filter through which every experience passes. Thoughts that are small, petty, or driven by fear limit potential and restrict opportunity. In contrast, thoughts that are noble, ambitious, and principled expand vision and attract possibilities. Every decision begins as an idea, and ideas are the seeds of all outcomes. People who cultivate noble thoughts tend to act with integrity, to treat others with respect, and to pursue endeavors that have lasting value. Even when obstacles appear, their elevated perspective allows them to respond constructively rather than react destructively. Consistency in thought is critical. Occasional noble thoughts are not enough to shape a noble life. It is the repeated, deliberate focus on high ideals that creates strength of character. Just as a river shapes rock over time through constant flow, the mind shapes destiny through consistent, elevated thinking. Thoughts of honesty, generosity, diligence, and courage, when practiced daily, form habits. Those habits solidify into character, and character, over time, becomes the visible evidence of a life guided by noble principles. Noble thoughts also influence the people and circumstances around an individual. The energy generated by elevated thinking is often subtle but powerful. It affects decision-making, attracts like-minded individuals, and opens opportunities that align with integrity and purpose. Conversely, thoughts grounded in pettiness, resentment, or self-interest repel progress and create friction. This is why two people with similar abilities can experience drastically different outcomes. Their dominant thoughts set the trajectory for their lives and define the quality of their influence. Developing noble thoughts requires awareness and effort. It means monitoring the mind for negative or unproductive patterns and replacing them with constructive alternatives. It involves reflection on personal values and alignment with principles that have lasting significance. The practice is ongoing. It is not a destination, but a discipline. Every choice, no matter how small, contributes to the cultivation of a mental environment where noble thoughts can thrive and shape a life of meaningful accomplishment. Ultimately, the power of noble thoughts lies in their ability to transform the individual and the world they touch. By consistently thinking in terms of integrity, purpose, and high ideals, a person not only elevates themselves, but also becomes a source of inspiration, guidance, and positive influence for others. Life responds to the quality of thought, and a mind dedicated to nobility inevitably produces a life of value, significance, and lasting achievement. In this way, greatness is less about external circumstance and more about the conscious cultivation of thought, which is the true seed of all that is noble and enduring. Desire is one of the most powerful forces in human life, but its power is realized only when it is combined with focused thought. Simply wanting something is not enough. A fleeting wish or vague hope rarely produces results. True achievement comes from a mind that concentrates consistently on a clearly defined goal, nurturing it with intention, planning, and disciplined thinking. Desire without direction is like a spark without fuel. It may flicker briefly, but it will not ignite lasting change. When the mind is concentrated on a specific objective, every thought, action, and decision begins to align toward that goal. The power of focus turns desire into a blueprint for action. Ideas are refined, opportunities are recognized, and energy is channeled efficiently. A person with a clearly defined purpose notices solutions where others see obstacles, finds resources where others see scarcity, and persists when others give up. Concentrated thought acts as a magnet, drawing circumstances, people, and insights that support the attainment of the desired outcome. The intensity of desire also plays a critical role. Weak or wavering desire produces weak results. A half-hearted aim cannot overcome the natural resistance and challenges that arise in life. Conversely, a deep, compelling desire creates internal momentum. It pushes a person to learn, adapt, and persevere even when faced with setbacks. This intensity, when paired with disciplined thought, transforms ordinary efforts into extraordinary results. The combination of desire and focus turns the mind into an engine of creation, capable of shaping reality in ways that seem impossible to those without such clarity. Concentration also protects the mind from distractions and conflicting influences. The human mind is constantly exposed to competing messages, fears, doubts, and external pressures. Without focused thought, desire can be diluted, scattered, or undermined. Regularly revisiting goals, visualizing their achievement, and intentionally directing thoughts toward constructive action strengthens resolve. The mind becomes trained to recognize only what is relevant to the objective, filtering out irrelevant noise and maintaining steady progress. Another important element is patience coupled with persistence. Concentrated thought does not always produce immediate results. Success often unfolds gradually, as the cumulative effect of consistent mental effort manifests over time. The individual who maintains focused desire and disciplined thinking continues to take purposeful steps, learning and adjusting until the goal is realized. This process demonstrates that desire, when harnessed correctly, is not mere wishful thinking. It is a deliberate, creative force that shapes both thought and action in pursuit of success. Ultimately, desire backed by concentrated thought transforms potential into reality. Life responds not to passive hopes, but to persistent mental effort directed toward clearly defined aims. By identifying a precise goal, nurturing it consistently in thought, and applying disciplined focus to action, a person converts desire into achievement. Every great success begins in this way, with a mind fully aligned, a purpose deeply felt, and a thought repeated and refined until it becomes the foundation of tangible results. Concentration gives desire its power, turning imagination into concrete reality and ambition into accomplishment. Habits are the visible expression of thought repeated over time. Every action, whether small or significant, originates from a preceding thought. When these thoughts are consistent and repeated, they crystallize into patterns of behavior known as habits. These habits, in turn, shape character, influence decisions, and determine the outcomes of life. Understanding the power of habit is essential because it reveals that the quality of life is not a matter of chance or circumstance, but of repeated, deliberate thought and action. Most people underestimate the influence of habitual thought. A fleeting negative idea may seem inconsequential, but when entertained repeatedly, it becomes a recurring behavior affecting mood, attitude, and decision-making. Conversely, positive, purposeful thoughts, when cultivated consistently, lead to productive and constructive habits. Over time, these habits create a life aligned with goals, values, and aspirations. The individual who masters their habits gains control over the patterns that govern daily life, while the one who neglects this principle remains at the mercy of impulses, external pressures, and unexamined tendencies. Habits function as the bridge between thought and reality. They translate intention into action without requiring conscious effort for each step. This automation is powerful because it allows the mind to focus on higher goals while routine actions continue to reinforce success. For example, the habit of disciplined study or practice produces skill over time. The habit of careful financial management produces stability and growth. Even small habits, repeated daily, accumulate into substantial results. The consistency of thought and action, more than occasional bursts of effort, is what shapes achievement. Breaking negative habits and forming positive ones requires deliberate awareness and effort. The first step is recognition, identifying which behaviors are destructive or limiting. Once recognized, these patterns can be consciously replaced with new habits that support growth and success. This process may take time, as the mind resists change and old behaviors are deeply ingrained. Persistence, patience, and repetition are essential. Each conscious choice to think or act differently strengthens the new pattern, gradually replacing the old and reshaping the course of life. The impact of habits extends far beyond personal outcomes. They influence relationships, health, career, and the general quality of experience. A person who cultivates habits of kindness, patience, and integrity will naturally foster stronger connections with others. Habits of focus, learning, and initiative lead to increased competence and opportunity. In essence, habits are the building blocks of character, and character is the determinant of destiny. Ultimately, habits are the crystallized form of repeated thought, and they determine the trajectory of life. By consciously choosing what to think and what to do consistently, a person shapes behavior, strengthens character, and creates conditions for success. Life is the reflection of repeated patterns, and habits are the mechanism through which these patterns are expressed. Those who master their habits gain mastery over their circumstances, their relationships, and their achievements. In this way, life is built one thought, one action, and one habit at a time, each contributing to the larger structure of character and destiny. A person does not attract what they wish for, they attract what they are. This principle emphasizes that life responds not to superficial desires or fleeting ambitions, but to the underlying nature of the individual. It is not enough to want success, happiness, or recognition. A person must first embody the qualities, habits, and mindset that align with those outcomes. The outer world mirrors the inner state, revealing consistently what a person truly is rather than what they merely hope to become. The thoughts, beliefs, and attitudes that dominate the mind determine the energy a person radiates. Positive, disciplined, and constructive thoughts attract circumstances and people that support growth and achievement. Conversely, negative, fearful, or chaotic thinking produces environments that reinforce limitation and struggle. Life does not reward wishful thinking, it responds to identity. A person who cultivates resilience, integrity, and focus naturally finds themselves in situations that reflect those traits. What is desired without alignment of character rarely manifests, but what is cultivated within inevitably draws matching conditions. This principle also highlights the importance of consistency. Occasional effort or temporary alignment with a goal is insufficient. Life is shaped by what a person consistently thinks, feels, and does over time. Habits, repeated actions, and sustained attitudes solidify into character, and character determines the quality of experiences and opportunities one attracts. The individual who embodies diligence, curiosity, and courage will consistently encounter opportunities and challenges that foster growth. The one who remains reactive, impatient, or doubtful will attract situations that mirror those limitations. Understanding that life responds to what a person is rather than what they want provides both clarity and power. It shifts focus from external circumstances, where control is limited, to the inner world, where control is total. Instead of blaming conditions or waiting for external factors to align, the individual can cultivate the qualities that will naturally produce desired outcomes. This requires honest self-reflection, discipline, and deliberate effort to strengthen thought patterns, habits, and emotional responses. By transforming the inner self, the outer world changes as a natural consequence. This principle also underscores the importance of integrity and alignment. One cannot live in contradiction and expect consistent results. If there is a gap between inner values and outward behavior, the energy projected becomes inconsistent, and life reflects that inconsistency. Harmonizing thought, belief, and action ensures that a person becomes a magnet for circumstances that reinforce their true nature. It is not manipulation or force, it is the natural law of correspondence between inner and outer realities. Ultimately, a person attracts not what they wish for, but what they have become. Life reflects the inner state accurately and without bias. By cultivating the right mindset, habits, and character, a person ensures that the results they experience in the world align with the life they desire. Success, fulfillment, and meaningful opportunity are the natural reflections of a cultivated inner self, and transformation begins with conscious attention to the quality of thought, belief, and action maintained over time. The outer world responds to the inner reality, making personal development the true key to achievement. In the end, life is not shaped by chance, circumstance, or the approval of others. It is shaped by the mind, the thoughts we nurture, the habits we form, and the character we cultivate. Every success, every setback, every joy, and every challenge is a reflection of what has been growing quietly within us. The outer world is simply a mirror of the inner life. By taking responsibility for our thoughts, we take control of our destiny. By tending the garden of our mind, we remove the weeds of fear, doubt, and negativity, and plant seeds of purpose, courage, and integrity. By mastering ourselves, focusing our desires, cultivating noble thoughts, and forming constructive habits, we align our inner world with the life we wish to live. The truth is simple yet profound. We attract what we are, not what we wish for. Every thought repeated, every habit formed, every principle embraced shapes the circumstances that follow. Life rewards preparation, discipline, and clarity of mind. It does not reward mere wishing or passive hope. When we understand this, we realize that the power to transform our lives has always been within us. This understanding is liberating. No matter the obstacles, the setbacks, or the uncertainties we face, we are never powerless. By consciously shaping our thoughts, refining our habits, and strengthening our character, we create the conditions for success, fulfillment, and inner peace. The mind is both the blueprint and the builder. The life we desire is the life we create, one thought at a time. So, the question is not what life will give us, but who we will become. And the answer lies in the mind, the choices, and the discipline we exercise today. Each moment presents an opportunity to think, act, and grow in a way that shapes a brighter, stronger, and more purposeful tomorrow. The power to change, to achieve, and to flourish has always been, and will always be, within.